Hello and welcome back to the finals of the Wimbledon tournament. After the first batch of games has finished, there are two players who have won both of their games, and that is me and Grozz. And for the second batch of games, the game against Grozz could be a very relevant one to see which player will be able to win this tournament at the end. And that is also actually the game that we are taking a look at today. And now, without further ado, we are hopping into the game. Alright, here we are in the game. And for today, I'm actually not alone. I'm joined by my opponent, Grozz, for this very important game. So, welcome, Grozz. Nice to have you here.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, I think it's great that we can comment this game together. And yeah, you had some really great tournament results recently. Now, this tournament is a pure two-player tournament. How would you say you are doing in the different player counts? Do you have a favorite player count or one where you think you have your best performances?
To be honest, I'm not sure now. I used to think that my three-player game is my weakest, but recently I won a few Mercurial top tiers and also won a Mezzo master group even earlier than international one, so I'm not so sure now. And yeah, like initially I started with four-player games only, like I don't know, 8 years ago maybe. And then of course, when I started playing actively 2 years ago, I started playing all player counts. So now I don't know which one is my strongest actually.
No, so but four-player games then might maybe be your most experienced one, and it's also for me. It's a constant flow on which player count I feel myself the most comfortable in at the moment. I am not really that great in four-player games, but feel better about my two and three-player games. But it could also change within the next few months. So um, yeah, all right,
I,
and
by the way, do you think there is a difference in play style between like players who started from two-player games and players who started from four-player games?
That's an interesting question. I do think that probably the players bring their tendencies, what they know from their preferred or player count, or the one that they have played the most, maybe into the other player counts, and then first have to adapt and maybe learn some things new for those player counts. For example, Daniel, who I think maybe mostly played two-player games, then came into three and four-player games, and also yeah, did some nice culture games in those player accounts, proving that they can also work in those, but maybe also had to adapt his play style, of course, for those player accounts. And a player who comes out of four-player games maybe has to, yeah, will maybe first
Yeah,
try
yeah,
approach the two-player games with a more economy-heavy approach.
yeah. I have the same feeling that the players who started from two-player tends to tend to build a lot of culture from the beginning of the game. And yeah, uh, there are also a lot of players who started with 4P who just cannot play two players at all because maybe they tend to rely on their economy too much and don't care about culture at all at the beginning of the game. And it's probably not the best way to play two-player games.
No, that's
At
true.
least it can be sometimes not enough, to build a strong economy. You also need to care about how you can score points.
No, that's definitely true. I definitely encountered some players who are very playing three and four-player games very well, but during a two-player game or during the game, I then already realized that maybe I can put myself into a good position, and they don't have a good reaction to that. Alright, I would say we can maybe start taking a look at the game, and first of all take a look at the leaders and wonders. Do you always take a look at the leaders and wonders before you start playing your games? How is your approach in that?
I mean, I definitely open this window, but yeah, in two-player games, like there are some important H2 leaders, but it's more or less well known, right?
No.
It's also important, like which wonders are in the game in H3, but maybe not so much actually at the beginning.
Yeah.
Suez, of course, is also an important wonder because it changes the value of some leaders and wonders, right? So I don't think I can share any revolutionary idea here.
Okay, no. So we can maybe quickly go through the leaders and wonders that we have here in the mix. We have some of the very interesting cultural leaders in H2 with Bach, Shakespeare, and also Antoni Gaudi. In H3 there's the internet, however no Hollywood as payoff card and also no theater synergizing leader in H3 at all, but there is Gandhi to potentially hide behind. Then we also have Churchill and the Manhattan Project to help with the military, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Marie Curie for some lab synergy. We have, in addition to the culture leaders, also Maria Theresa plus the ocean liner service, which can be interesting. There's no Suez Canal, but there's James Cook. There's also Robespierre. In H1 we have no military action leader, but Nostradamus to help with the strength. Barbarossa, we have Leonardo, but no Gutenberg. We have Columbus and Eleanor as some nice transitional leaders, and Isabella to maybe go for some colonies. We have the Forbidden City, but no St. Peter's Basilica, Silk Road, but no Universitas, Himeji Castle, but no Great Wall. And there's no Acropolis in HA, which is definitely also somewhat relevant in two-player games. Is there anything outstanding to you in this mix, or is it, or how do you see this?
I think Ocean Liner is a very strong wonder here. Again, as usual.
Yeah.
Especially for Shakespeare, because it requires some popular, probably even more than Bach.
Yeah, that's true. Shakespeare and Ocean Liner Service definitely being quite a strong combination. Alright, we can maybe start with taking a look at our turns, and you are playing here in first position, and maybe you can share your thoughts that you had about this first pick in the game.
I have a choice between three leaders, right? What else is in the deck? So Caesar, which is maybe not the best leader here. So yeah, I decided to just pick Hippocrates. Maybe Aristotle would be nice as well, but as I said, maybe it's important to have some extra yellow tokens to be able to build nice urban buildings for Shakespeare or Bach. So
Yeah, I think
yeah,
the extra yellow tokens from Hippocrates can definitely be quite helpful to set up a lot of those buildings. That's definitely true. So I think that choice should be a good one. For myself, I maybe if I would have the choice between what I want to get for myself, maybe I would have even preferred here to get Aristotle, but I do think for you, with playing in first position, maybe I also would slightly lean towards Hippocrates, but I think for me it would be a close call between Hippocrates and Aristotle. But with you having taken Hippocrates, for me it was relatively clear that I want to take Aristotle here. I don't want to commit to the Colossus or anything. Sun Tzu could be interesting, but I don't get a yellow card together with him. And Tomea, I think, is not that great in two-player games, and also maybe not that great with the Stonehenge. I don't necessarily want to go for the Colossus with there being no Zeus kennel in the game. And so I just went for Aristotle in the Ridgeland, which I thought was hopefully a very solid start. Maybe at the next turn I can get the Stonehenge, but there's also actually the chance that, for example, Pyramids could be revealed, which is a very strong combination with Aristotle. So I thought that could also be interesting, and now I was interested to see what wonders will come out of the deck. And Pyramids are actually not revealed, but the Rome Roadshow themselves on the row. And yeah, now we are back at your turn again.
Yeah. So here I just did some standard turn, I think. Also with take and that urban growth, I make sure that Roman roads fall to one civil action area. Engineering genius would be nice to have as well, and it also goes into my hands unless you want to take it for 2. So so far I was happy about the situation of the row.
Yeah, now Rome Roads and Engineering Genius can be quite good together because you can finish that wonder very quickly. You would get another yellow token, and if I want to deny one of those, it would be somewhat expensive for me. And
yeah, maybe I'm not the biggest fan actually of Roman roads general, but here there are no other HA wonders. But there is also a chance that if I see something else, like Forbidden City or Silk Road, or even Machu Picchu, I can just skip HA wonder.
that's definitely true. There's always a little argument towards delaying the commitment to an HA wonder, that there's the chance to get one of those strong H1 wonders as the first wonder. And for my turn, it was now actually a bit of an interesting decision. I have some different options here, and one of those wonders is now actually coming down the road, a Forbidden City. I could now go for, I mean, I can build my mine, elect Aristotle, increase my population. I have to think about maybe denying the engineering genius here, but I also have to think about which wonder do I want to get. I could just maybe take the Stonehenge here. If I get something like Monarchy or Code of Laws, I can then easily invest into it with having both Stonehenge and Aristotle. But I was looking at that Forbidden City. I was also looking at that printing press that is coming down the row. There is Shakespeare and Antoni Gaudi in the game, and I have Aristotle, meaning at the next turn I will have enough science, thanks to his ability to just take and invest into the printing press immediately. And so I was thinking about, should I just take the Stonehenge here and be fine with that wonder, or do I want to leave myself open towards the Forbidden City? The Forbidden City would be the wonder that I would prefer, because I do think it's quite a nice package, especially maybe in two-player games. In two-player games, I do think civil actions, basically in all player counts, are very strong, but then also the ignored unhappy workers help quite a lot with maybe going for a culture leader and not having to worry too much about fixing your happy faces and just being able to maybe invest some workers into printing presses. So I thought potentially getting printing press and the Forbidden City could be quite strong, but there's of course the chance that you could deny the Forbidden City from me. And then I maybe am left with the Rome roads, which I guess can be fine, but maybe a bit difficult with Aristotle. Stonehenge, of course, also having 4 steps, but maybe Stonehenge is also a wonder that it's completely fine to finish it a bit later on, depending on what options I have available. And also, if I want to delay my wonder here, I need to invest 1 civil action into taking the frugality. That's also what I will end up doing, but if you should now take the Forbidden City away, Then I, in hindsight, maybe would have preferred it to take the Stonehenge and then not having to spend my civil action on the frugality. Of course, if I commit to the Stonehenge here, you have a lot more freedom, can maybe just also wait until the Forbidden City falls down to 1. Maybe you can take the printing press for yourself, and like this I felt like you can't easily take both Forbidden City and printing press here, so I was hoping that I will get at least one of those cards, and if you take the Forbidden City away, then at least I still have the option to go for the Rome roads if I would like to. And here I also decided to just leave you the Engineering Genius, because with having the plan in mind of going for printing press at the next turn, I do think that would be too big of a civil action cost. And so I decided to leave myself open and take the frugality.
Yeah, I agree, especially on Aristotle. It's difficult to find extra actions.
No.
And yeah, Engineering Genius is a good card, but maybe not as good. I would say usually when you take it for 2, it's more a denial pick.
Yeah, I would agree with that. In a 2-player game, you sometimes have to do it, but just looking at what it does for yourself, oftentimes it's not really worth it to take it for 2. Sometimes it will be, but more often maybe not. Now I was very interested to see what wonder you will go for and how you will play your turn. So let's share what your thoughts on your next turn.
Yeah. So I agree that printing press here is an interesting choice. But Forbidden City is also probably the best wonder here, I would say, because extra actions are very important, and also it allows to just build dramas and don't spend your actions, your resources, your science on any happy face technologies. At least for a very long time. And yeah, I also thought like if I take Forbidden City now with Engineering Genius, then I can finish it next turn. I still don't have to. I mean, it's likely that I don't have resources to build the second lab anyway, and maybe I can get the second copy of printing press after that. So this was my idea.
Yeah. Did you think about taking both Forbidden City and printing press? I do think that would probably slow you down too much with not getting the Engineering Genius, but was that something that you considered?
No, not for long. I think the Engineering Genius for 1 is also a great card, and with it I can finish the wonder next turn.
Yeah. No, I think that was a fair
And
choice.
as I said, I hoped for the second copy. Maybe it appear soon, and then it's just not worth it to take it for 2.
No. No, I think at the end that looks like a good turn. I certainly was not happy to see the Forbidden City taken away. It felt like the right decision in this situation. And now at my next turn, I have to think about whether I want to go for the drone roads or not. What I definitely wanted to do is to get into the printing press, I think, with those leaders in H2, and also actually Leonardo being available in H1. That's just too strong, so I take the printing press and I build one immediately. And then with the last action, I had to decide whether I want to take the Rome roads or whether I maybe just want to take a copy of Knights, scoring another science with Aristotle and having already a military technology available. The Amici Castle will be discarded before my next turn, so that H1 wonder won't be available, meaning the available ones still left for me are the Machu Picchu and the Silk Road. The Silk Road is of course a wonder that can be quite strong, especially if you get it as a first wonder, but it also takes a lot of civil action, so it maybe doesn't synergize as nicely with Aristotle, even though maybe it can also be fine to finish it a bit later. And I do think it can, while it can be fine to skip the wonders for a while, I also do think it's quite strong to have just some base production from a wonder, and that you will get without requiring any population. And while having the Rome roads together with Aristotle is maybe not the greatest combination, but I will just get some production for the rest of the game. I know that there is something that I can invest my resource into in case I should need it. And so at the end I decided to still take the Rome roads here, as I preferred that over maybe having no wonder for quite a while. And but maybe waiting for the Silk Road could also be a perfectly fine choice here. Then I draw 2 tactics, the Phalanx tactic and the Legion tactic, and we are back at your turn.
Yeah, I started seeding. By the way, at that point, I had 2 colonies in hand: developed territory and strategic territory.
Mm-hmm.
No colonization cards though, but because I'm at first place, and also like there is no suits in the game. There is the colonies maybe are not so important. So even if I lose one, it's not the end of the world. And I actually wanted, I think, to get to resources, because in this case, like, I can build the lab on this turn. Of course, it means that I cannot wait for printing presses, but still, one science is one science. So I just wanted to see it. I also thought that maybe I can just get one of those sorts when upgrade it and be able to win the colony. Especially because I know that you maybe tend to not build early military units in 2-player games.
That's true. Alright, so the development of trade routes was revealed, and so you got 1 resource, but sadly not the 2 that you would need to build both the wonder and your lab.
Yeah.
And
yeah, so I decided to finish the wonder. I need to pop to not have corruption, and I took the irrigation as my last pick. I think it's still an important technology in 2-player game, even if there is ocean liner.
yeah, that's certainly true. And I mean, there's also at least a Machu Picchu for some potential synergy.
Yeah. This also can be a nice boost.
No, so at the end, somewhat straightforward turn, I would say. Just finishing the wonder, getting out of corruption, and securing the technology. Then it's my turn, and I decided to not push yet. I have the Pestilence and the Call to Arms in hand. I could potentially just finish the Rome roads here, and maybe that could be fine, but I would stay without a free population, and instead of finishing the Rome roads, I can also increase my population 2 times and then build another printing press to get even more science production. That also leaves me with the option to maybe finish the Rome roads with the masonry that is coming down the row. And so I decided to go for that second printing press to improve my production even more. And then the difficult choice for me was for my last civil action. And for that I had to think about what do I want to do about that masonry, and also there's a copy of Monarchy coming down the row. I thought that you might take the Monarchy at your turn, just denying me a way to get more civil actions and also just having a government form for yourself. I thought about taking a yellow card, like for example urban growth or reserves. That would mean that if I take that yellow card and you end up taking the monarchy, then the masonry would fall down to 1 civil actions for me. But it would also mean that the masonry is already in 2 civil actions at your turn, meaning that you could potentially also take the masonry yourself. Potentially you could even take both monarchy and masonry, but that would be somewhat expensive. You would need maybe to build a second lab without the urban growth in order to achieve that without corruption. So I thought maybe that would be too expensive, but I also think the masonry is quite an important technology. On the other hand, I have now already built 2 printing presses, so some potential for some saving some resources already gone. So I thought about what should I do with this masonry. At the end, I decided to just go with what is maybe the best for my own turn. I decided to take a copy of Swordsman. I have already a Legion tactic in hand. You have the Forbidden City, and with that maybe some advantages in case you want to build up some military. So I thought I maybe just have to be a tiny bit careful. If I don't take a copy of Swordsman now, there's only 1 copy of Knights left, which I don't know if I will get it. And if you should decide to maybe use the ignored unhappy workers to try doing something with the military, I could potentially get punished if I miss out on the second copy of Knights. So at the end I thought I want to have that swordsman for myself, but I felt a bit awkward about the thought that it's unlikely now that I get a masonry for 1, and if it stays on 2 it will be awkward because I can't take and develop the masonry plus finish a wonder. My wonder, but if I don't finish my wonder, I could have some difficulties to get out of corruption, and because of that I really thought about not taking the swordsman, instead taking one of those yellows, and but at the end I decided to secure myself the swordsman, and then at the next turn I have to decide whether I want to take the masonry for 2, go maybe for a bit of an awkward turn, but securing the technology, or maybe I just want to finish the Rome roads and let the masonry be available for you. I, at the end of my turn, just keep both of my tactics in hand and then draw 2 aggressions. And then we are at your turn again.
Yeah, again I seeded the other colony. By the way, last turn I drew even inhabited territory as well. But now I seeded developed. Again, I'm not sure if I can win them, but maybe Eleanor can help me. And it's time to change my leader, right? So yeah, I decided to see the colony, the second one.
Yeah. And development of civil life was revealed then that you used to increase your population.
Games, because there are not so many of them. But at the same time, I have not much of science. And it's not like super early monarchy as well, right? So I thought maybe I can leave it to you. And instead just decided to get swordsman and urban growth to build some labs maybe.
No. So
I probably didn't want to take Richland also because of masonry. It will fall to 1 civil action area in this case. So
no, I think masonry staying on 2 or falling down to 1 for me makes quite a difference for my turn. So if you go for Eleanor, I do think that it's then maybe okay to not take the monarchy here in 2-player games. I just kind of like it to have a government form already, just knowing that I have an increased urban building limit and some more civil actions to work with, as the H2 government forms are sometimes not that much reliable, but at least you have already also the additional civil action from the Forbidden Cities. So with that you are maybe not that much in a disadvantage.
yeah, To be honest, I thought maybe I can build enough science by the time H2 governments appear, and then I can grab and develop it. Of course, it depends on developed territory, for example, or it depends on when I can get my labs. But yeah, this was my plan.
No. Did you consider maybe taking Monarchy instead of Eleanor this turn, and then maybe going for Eleanor at the next turn in case I don't take her away?
Yeah, first of all, you can take it. And I don't see any other leaders on the roll, so it means maybe I miss it even next turn and my leader doesn't produce anything anymore. So I decided to take her. And she, as I said, she can be actually pretty nice, especially taking into account that I see the 2 colonies already and I have the 3rd one in my hand. Yeah, by the way, as for urban building limit, it's also maybe not so important because I already have 2 labs. I'm not sure if I want to build the 3rd one. So
No. No, I think that's definitely true, and also with those colonies, I also think that Eleanor is quite strong for you here. Alright, and then at my turn, I first of all was happy to see that the development of civil life was revealed, because that means that I can actually get out of corruption by increasing my population for 2 food. Otherwise, I would have had some weird corruption issues. And no, I was happy to see the monarchy coming down the road thanks to taking the swordsman at the turn before. I have now enough science to develop it when I take it and can increase my amount of civil actions. I, in order to do this, have to delay the Rome roads again, but I can now go for the monarchy, go up to 5 civil actions and take the masonry so that I can finish the Rome roads with the masonry. I have the masonry for some potentially for example, ocean liner service or railroad, which could be strong, and maybe to save some more resource along the way. So I was happy about getting the monarchy and also the development of civil life being revealed. After taking the masonry, I have still 1 civil action left. I don't want to build a step of the Rome roads because I can finish it with the masonry anyway, so I kinda have to take another card. I could potentially think about building another printing press, but I can also soon build it for cheaper with another masonry, and at this point I didn't want to commit that population yet because you still haven't some free population lying around, and if you should try something with the military, maybe even go for the theocracy or warfare or something, I could still be somewhat vulnerable in case you decide to do that. Still, it could maybe be an idea to already build another printing press, but at the end I decided to take a copy of Richland to maybe make it that I can go for some mine upgrades quicker. The first copy of iron will land on the discard spot during your turn, so that one will be discarded, but I was still hoping that maybe I can get a second copy, but also of course for some farm upgrades the Richland could be useful. I could think about the Breton Circuses here, just getting a happy face solution, but there's no Pierre in the game, there's no Darwin in the game, and with those culture leaders I kinda want to just go for some theaters at some point, and I do think that I don't really need that, and even with scoring a science with Aristotle, I wasn't too convinced about taking it here. I already have the swordsman in hand, which I maybe will, depending if I don't need them, I might just keep them in my hand for a bit longer, and I don't want to have too many technologies in hand that I at the end might not need potentially. So at the end, I preferred having the Richland here, and generally, I was quite happy on how I could further develop my civilization here with now getting the monarchy, masonry, and being able to finish the Rome roads at the next turn with the masonry. I draw some cards here, 1 colonization card, knowledge of the ancients, and uncertain borders. Then we are at your turn.
yeah, I think maybe also you don't need that bread so much because you still can finish Yawanda, and it also can help, right?
That's true, the
That
yellow
additional,
token.
yeah.
Certainly true. I think the main use case for the Breton circuses would maybe be in case you indeed would go for some military pressure. Maybe then it could make a difference, but otherwise, especially with that many H2 happy phase solutions, it's probably just not needed.
Yeah, on H2 there are a lot of happy faces.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's my turn and I seed it again. And this time inhabited territory. So there are 3 colonies already seeded, and now I actually have 2 colonization cards in my hand. What I also had is a scientific breakthrough.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of important here. It influenced my turn quite a lot, I would say, because this is the only card I can seed for now, and if you don't seed, it means that it will be in the next deck, and I want to get some value from it, so and that's why I decided not to build iron here and even don't take it at all. If I'm not mistaken. Let me check my turn, actually.
Yeah, you will end up skipping the iron here.
Yeah, I think I took cartography. Again, now I have 2 cards, but I cannot keep them, actually. I can keep only one of them. Or, I don't know, maybe I need to develop theocracy. I'm pretty sure this is what Saru would do in this situation, but I'm not him and I already have Forbidden City. And not so much science, as I said, but maybe actually it was a not so bad turn, just build one more lab. But again, these labs don't help with Shakespeare, for example, or with Gaudi.
No.
So
And for now, of course,
not...
you are still limited also by your urban building limit.
Yeah, I meant with theocracy.
I missed that.
Just get it and develop and build.
That's true. That could be interesting.
But yeah, I'm not sure about this turn. So yeah, I decided to develop cartography. I think it would basically allow me to win all the colonies, most probably. And there is at least one strong colony, right? Though strategic and developed not so bad as well. Yeah, and as my last action, I think I built the force mine. Again, at that point, I just decided that probably I don't have enough science to... I mean, even with developed territory and scientific breakthrough, I don't have enough science to be prepared for tier 2 government form. Because of course, ideally is to just take it when it appears and develop it immediately. So I want to have 12 science as soon as possible. And iron just costs too much. So in the end, I decided to rather upgrade my alchemies and wait for scientific breakthrough and develop territory as soon as possible, and be prepared for tier 2 government.
No, so I think that.
Yeah, also I thought like maybe later I can get coal, who knows, and there is also railroad, maybe not the strongest wonders in 2-player games, but at least maybe you'll need to ban call for me, or not sure about this, but maybe. Who knows? It depends on how fast it appears, of course.
No. No, so I think that was definitely an interesting turn, one that I did not expect to see, but of course I also didn't know that you had already pushed 3 colonies here, so with that in mind, the cartography of course makes a lot of sense. Now you can, as you said, probably win all of those for one warrior. And the fourth mine I think is also a good idea here. You have definitely enough population for it with the Forbidden City. Skipping the iron can of course backfire, but you indeed might have not the most science available, so I do think it can be fine here. It can be fine to play on lower production and two-player games, especially if you end up on a lot of civil actions. So it's certainly an interesting choice here, and maybe having the iron has its own advantages, but I do think it can maybe work just playing on those 4 bronze mines now for a while and just investing the science into other stuff. So I do think I was a bit surprised by it, but I think it might be fine here.
Yeah, in the end, I just decided to play with 4 mines, and for you as well. I saw that maybe it's not so easy to make a choice, right? Because now you need to take iron for 2, and you need to decide what you want to do. Like, but probably you are going to tell about this now, right?
Yeah, it certainly made my turn a bit tougher. That of course, if you would have taken the iron, it would basically be the same because it would still stay on 2 civil actions. But then of course there is now the additional thing about me taking the iron, also deciding whether you have it at all or not. And yeah, so I was interested. Found it interesting to see your turn. Thought that there are probably some colonies coming now. And at my turn, I will start by seeding my first event, the Knowledge of the Ancients. I have an HA, you have an H1 wonder, so I thought that it will just give me a little bit of extra value. So I decided to push that into the deck, also to not allow you full knowledge about the next event deck. The development revealed is the development of religion, which I can use. And then this turn, it's probably the last one when I can finish the Rome Road, so I want to do that. I can develop the masonry and finish it, and then I have exactly 2 civil actions left that I can use to take the iron. However, taking the iron means that I then don't have any civil action left to go for Leonardo, who could be an interesting leader for myself here, and there's no other leader coming down the row for now. I will probably lose Aristotle, don't get the civil action back when replacing my leader, and maybe have to wait even a little bit longer until I can go for a new leader. There is still Columbus in case I should draw an interesting colony. Maybe could be interesting. Nostradamus could help me with the strength, but because it is a bit awkward with my leaders, I actually did consider just skipping the iron here. Instead going for Leonardo. I can even develop the masonry then with already scoring a resource with Leonardo. So I thought about that, but at the end I thought that I want to have the iron when I take it with Aristotle. I have exactly enough science to go for it at the next turn. I can just go for a bunch of upgrades. And with me already having the masonry, I thought that I'm then very well prepared to go for the ocean liner service, but potentially also for the railroad or maybe even the Eiffel Tower, and invest some of my resources into a wonder. So at the end, with it also meaning that you now play without iron, which maybe is fine in your position, but can maybe also be a little bit limiting at some point. I decided to take the iron here, but felt not that great about losing Aristotle now to the end of the age. So it was definitely a bit awkward taking the iron here for 2. I then also revealed the Legion tactic to have that already in play and not having to use an H2 draw later on that. And then we are at your turn.
Yeah, I see that scientific breakthrough and won my first colony.
Yeah.
You decided not to beat,
yeah, I
right?
passed here. I have only 1 defense card. I thought you will definitely bid, and if in case I pass, I can't overtake you even if I bid 3, so I can maybe leave you the illusion that maybe I have even 2 defense cards in hand, but yeah, maybe it doesn't make a big difference. But if I bid 2, it maybe hints towards me only having 1 defense card.
Yeah, so like last turn you seeded yourself, so it means that scientific breakthrough is actually a bit late. It will be only in the next deck. But still, I need to upgrade my science, I think. But I decided to do this once, right? Because now there is no scientific breakthrough. And I think there was some reason for that. Yeah, because I decided to build a warrior actually, because again, it might be awkward if you seed, I win my second colony, and then I don't have a warrior, and I need to seed again. So yeah, that's why I didn't upgrade my second lap this turn, and instead just did one upgrade, get urban growth, and for my last action I kind of had to do something, and I just had resource from the row.
No. And at the end you actually build a third warrior, maybe to just using now a lot of H1 military actions, as you probably need to send 2 of those away anyway, and then you at least have still 1 left.
Yeah, just to draw more H2 cards on the next turn.
No.
Here I think maybe I made a mistake, because now I have Reign of Terror and Foray in my hand, and probably I should have discard Reign of Terror. I think like the benefit from them is more or less equal. Maybe, let's say, usually Reign of Terror is slightly more painful, but maybe not in our case, because you still have that lab that maybe you don't need, or maybe even warrior. And also I probably didn't check that there is Nostradamus in the game, and it can also be tricky to win Reign of Terror against him, whereas Foray is more certain, just because I have some extra strange, right?
No.
And I'm going to win strategic territory as well.
No. So I think you definitely have some chance to win those strength events, but yeah, with Nostradamus coming, maybe Foray would have been the safer pick here, and with you being on bronze mines, maybe the additional resources could also give you quite a nice boost potentially. And now then H2 will start, and I have my first turn in H2. I will lose Aristotle now, and there are quite some leaders to choose from actually, and the first card revealed from H2 is actually the Republic. I already have a government form, but you still need one, so I had to think about what do I want to do with that. And I do think denying it would be too expensive here. I can do a very clean turn with getting a lot of production going, and I don't want to miss out on that. It would be too expensive. At least you don't have the most science for the moment, so you can't easily get into it. Of course, you can always do a revolution, and I wasn't too happy leaving you the Republic, but I at least made sure to let it stay on 3 civil actions, and with that it would be somewhat expensive for you to take it, and I was then fine with that solution. And I certainly wanted to take the irrigation here. That would be very nice to have if I get the ocean liner service, and also just having a food solution in hand can be quite important, so that I can start my food production whenever I want to. And then I want to upgrade something. I can just go for 3 iron upgrades if I want to. Nonetheless, I also considered starting with irrigation upgrades, because I have a nice Shakespeare setup, and if I go for Shakespeare, but also potentially for the horticulture leaders, I just need a lot of population. And Maybe it could be worthwhile to start with the irrigation here, but at the end I just went with the iron and went for 3 upgrades, having them nicely upgraded, and then I was hoping that maybe I could have a shot at ideally getting the ocean liner service, but potentially also railroad or Eiffel Tower could be interesting, and I can then maybe still go for irrigation at one of the next turns. If there wouldn't be the Republic on the spot, maybe I would have thought about going for a bit of a Columbus gamble here with having 3 draws per turn and getting my leader late, but I don't have any colony in hand. The Republic would fall down to 2 civil actions for you, and so instead I thought I would just rather go with Nostradamus here, scoring maybe a little bit of culture and also potentially having some protection for strength events. I could have missed out on an upgrade and taken the breakthrough here, but I think just getting all mines upgraded should be the best here. So that was my choice for this turn. I kept both of the events in hand so that I have some options to seed with Nostradamus. And then I draw the refugees, historic territory, and raid. And we are at your turn.
Yeah, at my turn, there is one more interesting card appeared on the row. It's Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And as well as Republic, it's a bit too early for me. I would say as you can see, I don't have, I mean, not even close. I have enough science to get Republic and develop it, so I would rather have it a bit later. And the same with Shakespeare, actually, because I have quite a lot of value from Eleanor as of now, but I wasn't sure that I want to leave it to you because you are prepared to him so nicely. So yeah, maybe I made a mistake actually when I get Shakespeare here. Maybe I should have left it to you. But then, know what I can do. I thought that probably in this case I need to take drama, because otherwise you can just start building pairs immediately. And again, I'm not sure if I need the drama now. And
No.
I leave myself without printing press because I think without taking Shakespeare I cannot take both, or at least it's not so easy, because I have only 5 cards that I can get in my hands. So yeah. And yeah, Republic for 3 is also, I'm not sure if I want to do this. At least you'll have to ban it from me and spend some actions on it. So what do you think, by the way?
Yeah, it's a tough choice with Shakespeare. I think if you had one more hand space, then I do think a turn like upgrading the lab, taking drama and Republic would be strong, but sadly that's not an option. So if you don't take Shakespeare and want to have Republic, then you kind of need to leave drama up.
Actually, I can upgrade.
Okay, true. You can use
yeah.
the urban growth. So I do think maybe that turn could be interesting because then you would be at 8 science at the next turn. And if you win the developed territory, you are at 11. So you can develop the Republic potentially already at the next turn. You will at least take the drama away so that I can't go for Shakespeare at least immediately. And there is at least Bach and Gaudi. But of course, Shakespeare is very hard to compete with. So it's a tough choice here. And you can go for printing press drama. You missed out on the iron, and the resource cost discount that you get from Shakespeare could be quite relevant for you. So I do think maybe going for Shakespeare could be the right move, but on the other hand, being able to potentially go already for the Republic at the next turn is just also extremely strong with going up to 8 civil actions. Then you can maybe also keep Eleanor for a little bit longer, making a little bit up for maybe getting the bit less strong H2 leader. Maybe just keeping Eleanor for longer and then going for Bach could be fine. But of course, I am very nicely set up for Shakespeare, so it's a tough choice.
Yeah. As I said, these cards are just a bit too early for me. Maybe your move is actually nice. I'm not sure if I thought about this during the game. But yeah, here I decided to get Shakespeare in the end.
No. And then you can start some food
And
production.
yeah, and take 2 cards, Printing Press and Drama.
No. And I mean, like this, at least you have a very cheap way to set up your culture production resource cost wise. So with the additional yellow tokens that you also have, the Forbidden City, you might have the population to really build a lot of those cheap pairs potentially. So Shakespeare, while you're not perfectly set up for him, still could have quite some potential for you with allowing that extremely cheap culture engine.
Yeah, but the problem is not very soon, right?
No. And no, so maybe I would slightly prefer that Republic taking turn, but if maybe Bach is late and I get an early opera with Shakespeare, then I also can maybe just run away with the culture potentially. And then it's my turn. I again have to think about what do I want to do with the Republic. You again don't have the most science available. I don't know that the developed territory is coming, which could potentially help you with that. Bach is actually also revealed already this turn. I could potentially also just skip the H1 leader, but I thought having Nostradamus for a few turns, maybe ideally being able to seed every turn, gives me more culture for now than Bach and also some information and potentially help for the strength event. So I went for Nostradamus this turn. And I decided to deny the Republic here because you maybe can't get into it easily, but you can maybe still set up a revolution. You have now already Shakespeare, so maybe you don't have the most cards that you really need. Maybe you can set up a printing press, take the Republic, revolt even without having corruption, and then just have a lot of civil actions from there. I thought it might be too strong. And also getting the government for cheap science cost with that. So I decided to deny the Republic here. And then the last civil action, it was a choice of if I want to have the code of laws here or not. Being on monarchy could be a bit limiting with my 5 civil actions at some point. And so I thought about just taking code of laws here, can maybe develop it at the next turn, already at the next turn, then going up to 5 civil actions. But I can also build a printing press and there's a justice system coming down the row, and if I just build a printing press it will stay on 2 civil actions for you. I was hoping that maybe you wouldn't take it, even though you can definitely use it for yourself, but I do think it would maybe a bit costly for you. So I thought that I'm willing to go for the printing press first, increasing my production first, building it quite cheaply with the masonry for 2 resources, and then I was hoping that I still get a justice system at the next turn, and if you deny it, it will at least be a little bit costly for you, and you might have to miss out on some yellow cards that might also be useful for you. So I could have maybe also just taken the code of laws here, but I also thought that depending on how the game goes, if it turns out to be a bit more of a peaceful game, then it could even be an idea to actually use the Republic that I've just hate drafted and use that to get more civil actions, especially if the justice system should be denied. And with that, I at the end decided to wait for the justice system here and already get my printing press going. I keep the reds and the refugees and draw the prosperity. And we are at your turn.
Yeah, I seeded, I think, another colony. This time wealthy too.
Yeah, I actually saw that with Nostradamus.
Yeah. And here, yeah, of course, I didn't want to leave you justice system, so
No.
in the end I took it to myself. Again, the next card is develop territory. Scientific breakthrough is also soon. Plus, I'm gonna have solid science production pretty soon, so I thought I can afford it. Plus, the 3 blue cubes can also be helpful for me with having only bronze mines. So yeah, that's why I decided to start building at least some culture and took the justice system.
Yeah, I think that looks like a solid turn. And with the developed territory and scientific breakthrough coming, I do think the justice system looks also better than it maybe looked from my perspective, with thinking that maybe it could be too big of a science investment. But I do think with the scientific breakthrough, we can probably afford it. And then with denying it, I think denying it from me is probably the correct choice. And then at my turn, I decided to push the prosperity. Definitely didn't want to push the refugees. I thought about the reds, but I will actually go for some irrigation upgrades. So I thought that that could be the best move for me, and I thought I can maybe keep the reds until I know which will be the player who gets the ocean liner service. If I get it myself, I can then maybe push the reds. If not, I should maybe aim towards building a third farm or something, and then I don't want to have the reds in the deck, so I didn't push the reds and instead just pushed the prosperity, hoping that you don't get too many happy faces until it will be revealed. And the event revealed is the developed territory. Again, I have to pass. I wasn't too happy about seeing you winning that many colonies for cheap, but I couldn't really do anything about it. So the cartography giving you quite some value here. I actually considered, first of all, I will definitely take Bach this turn. I did actually consider to just develop the Republic and maybe increase my civil actions already now, but I felt it's maybe a little bit too early. Also, I then can't go for irrigation. I maybe would have to build a religion to get out of corruption, and I didn't want to do this commitment yet. There is still the chance that you could do something military related, and getting more draws with Nostradamus could also be relevant. So I thought about this, but decided to go for the irrigation here. Upgrading it gets me out of corruption. If I upgrade it 2 times, I can increase my population at the next turn. For my last civil action, I then consider taking the rich land, doing something that I have already done in one of the games of the finals before, taking the rich land from H2 in order to build a third farm. But I at the end thought it might be it might not be efficient enough. Maybe it would be fine, but I have some strong production anyway, and I at the moment have only 5 civil actions. Of course, can maybe get into Republic at the next turn if I want to, but I don't know if I want to make that commitment yet. And also, one event that I don't have knowledge about is the Rebellion. You had the Forbidden City very early, so the Rebellion looked like an event that you certainly could push into the deck. And with that, I, in the end, instead of taking the rich land, decided to build a religion here, just making sure that I don't have any unhappy workers. With having Bach, I can just upgrade that religion later on to an opera, and also increase my culture production already by a little bit right now. So first my idea was to take the rich land, but I have enough resources so that I can also build a third farm without a rich land, and um, with 5 civil actions, it probably would be fine to take it, but I also have to be a bit careful about using my civil actions effectively, and losing 2 to the rebellion could be quite bad. There's of course also a copy of Rifleman on the row, which can be relevant in 2-player games, but we both have the Swordsman, and I can let it stay on 2 civil actions for you, so I didn't want to spend 2 civil actions to take it here without having a tactic for it. I keep my 2 events in my colonization card, and I draw the economic progress and the autonomous territory as well as the infiltrate, and then we are at your turn.
Yeah, I actually have only one event in my hand, and it's again something you can see.
That's true. I think it was the international negotiations.
Yeah, I also have Conquistadors tactic, but it's not really relevant for now. Um, yeah, unfortunately, I opened Scientific Breakthrough, not Reign of Terror. That's why I kind of have to build a warrior on my turn. Not drama again. It's delayed
Yeah.
because yeah, it would be strange if I lose Reign of Terror knowing about it, and I'm not sure what to destroy in this case. So I think I have to build that swordsman or rather warrior. Um, Maybe I also had an option to upgrade it to swordsman, but again, I'm not sure. I need to spend some science on it. Now, when I actually waiting for constitutional monarchy. So yeah, but actually, at the end of my turn, I still don't have 12 science. So I don't know. Maybe I could have upgraded my warrior to swordsman and build drama this turn.
Yeah, maybe that could have been an option, but then again, while you can't go for constitutional monarchy at the next turn anyway, developing swordsman now, you would maybe delay it even longer. So I think it's also fair to maybe build it warrior, but of course delaying the culture production
Yeah,
for the drama.
in the end, like the another colony is coming, and I need to have at least one warrior because maybe it's not so likely that you see the colony actually, but who knows?
Yeah.
Everything is possible.
So you also decide to go for the journalism this turn. What was your thought behind that? Maybe just denying me another source of culture income and allowing you to upgrade it at some point. Are you still there? I can't hear you at the moment.
Uh, yeah, so I decided to take journalism. I think just because it's uh, cheap technology with Shakespeare, and maybe I can spend some resources on it. So just some extra culture, extra science. I think why not?
Yeah.
Like what else I could have done? Maybe play reserves, but at that point I wasn't sure what I need from them. Most likely food, but who knows?
No. I think just in a two-player game it can be very important to secure every bit of additional culture reduction that you can get and deny every bit from your opponents. And I have a lot of resources and can maybe upgrade my three printing presses to journalisms potentially. So um, I do think it's a fair pick. And yeah, so you upgrade your lab, increase your culture, your science production, and with you getting stronger, I already thought that maybe there is a strength event potentially coming, but I don't really want to increase my strength anyway, so I was at my turn then just fine to push and potentially suffer the consequences of that strength event. And here my seeding was influenced on what I saw on the card row, because a card that will appear now on the row is actually the Ocean Liner service, which I was happy to see. I do think I'm very well prepared for it with the masonry and my strong resource production. And with me now knowing that I will be the one playing an Ocean Liner service, I was willing to seed. I also importantly had knowledge about the call to arms that I discarded earlier on, meaning that I can't lose my civil actions, and which would lead to me not being able to pick the Ocean Liner service. And with that I was willing to put the rats into the deck. The Reign of Terror is revealed, so there was a strength event and I had to lose something. I decided to just lose a warrior here. I knew with Nostradamus that the Wealthy Territory 2 is coming, but I also have only this H1 colonization card in hand. Of course, there's a chance that I might draw a new one from H2, but I just thought maybe I can't really compete for that colony anyway, which I wasn't happy about. I thought the additional resources might be very helpful for you with being in bronze mines, but I couldn't really do anything about it. And then, after the scientific breakthrough has been revealed, I actually have a lot of science now, and getting additional civil action this turn would be quite helpful. So after taking the Ocean Liner service, I actually decided to go for the Republic now. Thanks to the additional science, I have enough to, for example, get into strategy. Of course, I don't know whether I will be able to go for the strategy, but I just thought the additional civil action is very worthwhile here, because now I can increase my population to get out of corruption, and I can also take a military technology. Otherwise I either would have to take corruption or take a military technology, and I can either take the cannons or the rifleman. Here I decided to go with the rifleman. Maybe I should have just taken the cannons, but I thought it would also be somewhat costly if you want to deny me the second copy of cannons, and so at the end I took the rifleman here, leaving the cavalryman on 2 civil actions for you in case you maybe need them for a tactic. And yeah, so now with the Republic I'm on 7 civil actions. I still have a decent amount of science left, and even though I'm now dropping down to 2 military actions, I was hoping that I will be somehow able to handle this. Maybe I should have actually used the additional military action from the monarchy in order to build a warrior. I think I actually made a mistake here, because when I thought about building the warrior, I thought it will mean that I miss out on a card draw, but I could have built it and only afterwards gone for the Republic. And so I could have maybe built a warrior for the colony without missing out on any draws, but it could also be that I draw the hussars or the fortifications tactic, so not committing could maybe also be fine, especially because I might not be able to compete for the wealthy territory anyway. So that was my turn, and I draw actually an H2 colonization card, so now I was thinking that maybe I should have maybe built a military unit. And then we are at your turn.
Yeah, but unfortunately I don't have anything to seed anyway, so I have a war over territory in my hand, but with 2 military actions, I'm not sure if it's so important.
Yeah, could have been,
So
if the strategy would have been revealed, maybe that could have been potentially dangerous for me.
yeah, maybe. So no constitutional monarchy still. At least I can build my first pair.
Yeah,
Also, I decided to take some additional resources just to have extra food, probably again. And cavalryman, I needed to fulfill my tactic. As I said, it's conquistadors. Maybe not the best one, but the only one I have. So and I have at least swordsman for it.
No. Maybe it could be worthwhile here to think about taking the cannons, denying them from me, maybe still having the hopes for the second copy of Cavalryman, and then also the hope of maybe getting a better tactic than the Conquistadors. I think maybe I would consider that, or just taking the cannons for one. But of course, the Conquistadors is the tactic that you have, and if you miss out on the Cavalryman, you might have no tactic at all to work with.
Yeah. Also, I wasn't really sure about my war potential. I mean, I'm on Shakespeare. I remember we had a game where I actually played aggressively with him as my leader, but I wasn't sure about this game.
No.
I think I rather need to build my players first, because you already have some couch elite, and I don't have enough resources actually to build military.
No.
But I definitely have enough to build my pairs.
Yeah, I think probably going for a more peaceful road is probably what you have to do here. Still though, maybe if I'm limited on my tactics and you have maybe the ability to threaten something like fortifications, or it could potentially, I maybe have to be a bit more careful about my moves. But yeah, I think securing the cavalryman here is probably also fine, and then also you play to reserves for 2 food, deciding now that the food is more valuable for you than the resource, which I think I definitely agree with.
Yeah. To be honest, when I played, I remember I hoped that with 5 additional yellow tokens, I should feel myself. I should feel better in terms of population, but in reality, I don't have a lot of free population in this game, I would say. And yeah, for example, now I cannot just, even on the next turn, I cannot just pop twice and build my urban buildings. I need to use reserves first for that.
No.
So yeah, like liner is maybe a more important thing than all the colonies I got.
Yeah, I think the ocean liner is just so extremely strong, and certainly helps me out a lot here, being able to get that, as having a lot of population is just so important in those culture heavy games. Right, so then we are at the end of your turn. At my turn, I had to decide whether I want to cede the economic progress or not, knowing that if the wealthy territory 2 is revealed, I can't bid for it at all. And now with having drawn an H2 colonization card, there might at least be a chance that I can maybe bid for it. But I just wanted to get a culture with Nostradamus, and I was also hoping that maybe you don't really want to go for the coal, it's relatively late, and probably you want to go for the conmon. You can't go for both at the next turn in case the conmon should appear on the row, so I was willing to take the risk with the economic progress here, and the event revealed is not the wealthy territory, so I might still get a shot at winning that. Instead, the prosperity is revealed, which gives us both a little bit of additional food, meaning now you actually have the food that you need in order to go for that second pair. And this turn I will just finish the ocean liner service, and I do think there are quite a bunch of interesting cards available for me for one civil action that I want to take. There's this copy of cannons that I want to secure for myself, especially now that taking it also means that you will miss out on it. Then there are 2 very interesting yellow cards. The patriotism is quite strong for me with being low in military actions, making myself also a bit safer. The revolutionary I do think is still quite strong, even though I have a decent amount of science. And then I will also really wanted to develop the cannons and build a unit. I just wanted to build some unit. I could also just build a warrior, but I thought the cannons just work for the most of the H3 tactics. Developing it now and building one could maybe make it that you are afraid of me having the fortifications tactic, so maybe you will think that I have the tactic and with that estimate my potential to defend myself higher.
Yeah.
If I'm
Actually, on my last turn, I drew it, so
okay, so that sadly didn't have an effect then, but I do think it sometimes can be worthwhile just if you see an opponent in a two-player game just start building cannons and you don't have knowledge about the fortifications, you always think, ah, dang, he probably has gotten this tactic, and maybe I can make you think that, but sadly you have now drawn the copy for yourself and know that I don't have it available. But of course, I could still have something like mobile artillery or defensive army. And so I decided to build a cannon with the cannon and my 2 colonizations cards. I was hoping that maybe I can at least make it that you have to send 2 warriors away for the colony if you want to win it. And then maybe you realized that I didn't use the ocean liner service yet, and that is because the question now was whether to increase my population once normally and then with the ocean liner. That would mean that I'm at 2 food plus 2, meaning at the next turn I have exactly 4 food, just enough to increase my population again. But spending the civil action would mean that I don't get the organized religion, and at the end I thought I kinda needed to take that as well, because the other copy of organized religion will be discarded, and the team sports are already discarded as well. Of course, I ideally just want to build a bunch of operas, but there's no chaplain, no Marlene. At some point I might need the happy face solution. There's maybe still the chance, especially if you get the strategy, that you could do something with the military. And so I just felt it is too dangerous to not take the organized religion here. And I also go for Bach because I have no event to see it for Nostradamus. I just want to get the 2 culture. However, taking the organized religion means that now I'm at 7 food at my next turn. I can increase my population, but then I'm again at 3 plus 2, so I will still have some food lying around, and that is quite relevant because the H1 event that is soon coming in the next event deck are the reds, and so it would be a lot cleaner to increase my population once normally already this turn, but at the end all of the cards, the cannons, revolutionary idea, patriotism and organized religion were too important for me to make that cleaner move in regards of my population. Maybe I could skip one of those actions, maybe I could skip developing the cannons, but I felt it could be nice to maybe go for cannons directly, and maybe with that making it more look like I have a fitting tactic available. So at the end I decided to save up some food, and then I hopefully, or I can still increase it at my next turn with the ocean liner service. Even if I lose a little bit more food, maybe it can still be somewhat fine for me. I keep my 2 colonization cards in hand and draw the strategic territory, then we are at your turn again. And you actually go for the spire. I can't hear you for the moment.
yeah, I still don't have an event to push, so I decided to play something.
Yeah,
At least I maybe force you to uh, defend and spend some cards, and you don't have a lot of cards in your hand, so yeah, that's why I played it. Of course, it will cost me a card, but I don't know. I just decided to play. There is always a lucky chance that you don't have anything, and
that's true, and
I can still chance.
I'm also kinda known for being fine with just not being able to defend myself, but this time I had the necessary defense card.
Yeah, I didn't have a lot of expectation. So yeah, then I just want to build my pairs finally, and I can do it. I want to also develop swordsman just in case I need to build some military. Uh, and yeah, I decided to let the call go because it's a bit too late for it anyway, I think.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. That's why I also was willing to put the economic progress into the deck, because I also thought that you might not end up going for that. And now we already are at the end of age 2, and at my turn I was interested to see if the constitutional monarchy will appear, because if that should appear I would have a decision to make whether to deny it or not, but it isn't on the row, the strategy also isn't in the row, so I can't take any of those cards, which at least means that I can fully focus on my own decisions. And one card that I certainly want to have here is the Opera with Bach. And I also can develop the opera and upgrade a religion to opera, going up to 10 culture reduction. I then have still 4 civil actions left. I decided to take the cavalry man to be prepared for as many tactics as possible. Getting the breakthrough for one civil action I think is just a very good deal for me. I could take another yellow card like the urban growth, but it's a bit expensive for 2 civil actions, and also I wanted to increase my population here so that in case I draw something that I want to push into the deck, I can seed, even if you maybe seed as well, and then the reds would be the next event. So I wanted to rather I increased my population already, and then I played the Revolutionary Radial just to use civil action already. Also, if I would take another yellow card from the row, it is more likely that either the strategy or the constitutional monarchy would be available for 2 civil actions for you, and I thought it could be nice for me if ideally both of those cards stay in the 3 civil action area, which I make a little bit more likely with not taking even another yellow card, so I felt it should be better than taking something like urban growth for 2 civil actions here. Yeah, and I was at this point happy that I had managed to develop a little bit of a culture lead thanks to Nostradamus and those early printing presses. Now with me ending the age and going into age 3, I have a culture lead of 21 culture, and also the Rome roads will now switch to culture production. I thought that could maybe give me a bit of an advantage in case the game will continue in a culture race, especially because I have also the ability to just build more operas, so a very clean way to get more culture production, while you can go for one more pair, and maybe then you're a little bit limited, even though you can just go for journalisms, of course, as well. So I at this point thought I have a fine position in this game. Maybe in case you have some good military cards, it could get a bit dangerous if maybe you deny the strategy and try something with that. But there's always the chance that I might get Gandhi or military theory or something. And thanks to my culture lead, I thought that I maybe have some advantages here, also with the ocean liner service. But of course, Shakespeare can always do some strong stuff, and a culture gap of 21 is certainly something that can be overcome during age 3. What were your thoughts at the beginning of age 3 here?
Yeah, by the way, mm, you remind me that there is actually Gandhi in the game, so this is also probably the reason why I didn't really consider uh, any military play.
No.
Because again, it would require a lot of time, and by that time Gandhi might appear. Like even if I draw like the perfect tactic and find somewhere the resources, it just might be too late.
No.
Yeah, and here I thought that you are ahead, and I thought that my only chance is maybe to get the internet and to catch up with it somehow. Unfortunately, there is no strong leader for it. I mean, strong H3 leader, maybe except Marie Curie, but she's not so strong in two-player games
No.
in general.
Right.
So
No.
yeah, this was my plan, if we can call it so.
No. And then at your turn, finally, you had the chance now to get into that constitutional monarchy.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's very late, I think I still have to do this. I like even if I mm, develop it now and change it in 2 turns, I think it's worth it. Just some additional buildings I can build with it and additional culture production.
Yeah.
Ideally, I would probably want to get Eiffel Tower, maybe, but it's not possible anyway. I mean, Eiffel Tower with engineering genius, but I thought that I need to build my buildings as well, and I also want to have architecture. Uh, Again, it can save me some resources and some actions when I need to build my internet.
Yeah, the architecture has definitely the potential to be quite important, also in case you want to start upgrading your printing presses or dramas.
Yeah, this is also the reason. So yeah, I don't have actions for Eiffel Tower, and to be honest, it also costs a lot of resources. Maybe I need to build some army. I'm not sure.
No, that could.
And again, it's very late. Like H3 started already.
That's true. I do think the culture production could be useful for you, but there's also the potential that it maybe could block yourself from, for example, the internet, which could be quite bad for you.
Yeah. I thought about it only because you're head of culture. You still can build 2 more operas, and even with upgrading my printing presses, I cannot reach your culture production,
No,
I think.
yeah, that's
So yeah,
true. So
this looked not very good for me.
no, so maybe it could be worth the gamble, but I do think it's probably too difficult to not. There's not a clean way to fit the Eiffel Tower into the turn here, probably. And now, at the end of your turn, you also upgrade a warrior to swordsman, maybe also just increasing the amount that you can bid for the wealthy territory, also using the free military action. And at my turn, I have only one event in hand that I could push, the arms industry, but with you being on bronze mines and having developed swordsman, I didn't want to give you a source of additional resources, so I decided to skip my politics phase here. I can use the ocean liner service to increase my population, and here the strategy I think is a card that I certainly want to get, just making sure that I hopefully draw 3 cards every turn from now on, and also I'm a lot more safe for the military, so I decided to take the strategy, I decided to develop it immediately, increasing the amount of draws. And then I also definitely wanted to go for another opera. I can just build one. I considered upgrading a religion to opera. That would leave me with enough resources to build a warrior. At this point I have drawn the Napoleonic army tactic, so I might need that infantry unit at some point anyway. It would increase the amount that I can bid for the wealthy territory. But at the end I thought it's maybe not really worth it, and I just rather want to build that additional opera, get even more cultural production, and also there's the chance that maybe I draw something like Mechanized Army. I don't know for certain yet whether I really needed infantry unit. Maybe the game will stay completely peaceful and I don't need to build really a lot more military units, so I just built that opera, and that left me with 3 civil actions. I decided to take the copy of reserves, and then I wanted to take another card from the 2 civil action area. I could also increase my population, but then it's maybe a little bit unclear how to use the last civil action. Increasing my population could be nice, because maybe if you see the reds are on top and if I then want to see it, it could be a bit awkward. But I thought that either the additional resource from the urban growth or the ability to go into multimedia could both be very important. First I thought maybe I want to even deny the multimedia, but with being on bronze mines it is somewhat expensive for you to go for that, and also I can just at least build 1 more opera. If I don't get the urban growth, going for 1 more opera and then into multimedia is somewhat expensive. Maybe I could get the efficient upgrade at the next turn, but it's not clear. And there's also a second copy of multimedia, so at the end I decided that just getting the additional resources out of the urban growth is more important, denying those resources from you and securing them for myself so that I can build the next opera very cheaply, and then I can still hope to get either the second copy of multimedia, maybe a copy of movies, or maybe an H3 government form at some point to be able to build even more cultural production in case it is needed. So that was my turn.
Yeah, also you don't need to block multimedia from me because anyways I still have the journalism.
Yeah, I do.
Maybe it's not as good. I'm not sure. Anyway, I need to spend some additional actions on multimedia.
Yeah, that's true. You also have the journalisms in hand. Sometimes the multimedia can maybe be better, but especially with you being in bronze mines, it's maybe yeah, not with you having the journalisms in hand, not needed here to deny the multimedia. I draw my first 2 impacts, the impact of Wonders and the impact of Progress, and then we are at your turn.
Yeah, I again don't have anything to seed. I drew some aggressions and 1 defense card, H3. So here I just continued building some urban buildings. Again, unfortunately, I don't have science and I cannot really prepare myself to get democracy because obviously this is like yet another card that can be very important here. So I just built what I can and grabbed some yellow cards, which are actually quite good for me. I think military build-up can be definitely helpful. And endowment gives me 6 culture almost any turn, so
Yeah, I think that.
this was my turn, yeah.
No, I think the turn looks good. Maybe the multimedia could be a consideration instead of going for 2 journalisms upgrades, just going for 1 multimedia upgrade, but maybe it's also just fine to go for those 2 journalism upgrades.
Maybe. It costs additional 3 science. I'm not sure.
No, I mean,
maybe it doesn't really matter. I mean, maybe I don't need them because I still don't have enough to develop democracy.
no. So no, but still the 3 science could make a difference, and maybe you can then go for democracy plus something else at some point in the future. But yeah, I was at the end happy that I didn't deny you the multimedia, and hoping that I will find some other ways also to increase my culture production for my own. But you know, the journalisms will leave you with more science in short term. It doesn't really make a difference on how much culture you will produce with them. And then we are at my turn. I have not drawn a good impact, so I wanted to push. At least I will also win the tiebreaker for the colony reveal. And I push the Impact of Wonders, the wealthy territory is revealed, and I'm not able to bid more than 5, and that means that you are able to win it for just a warrior, so I do think those additional resources are quite helpful for you. Maybe with the wealthy territory coming, the multimedia could be a consideration, as you might now be able to go for the next 2 upgrades relatively quickly, but you also might still quite need a lot of resources for the internet and maybe building an additional pair or something, so the resource might also be needed there. And then I at my turn can use the ocean liner service. I build the 3rd opera, going up to 20 culture production. I take the revolutionary idea. There are also some resource yellow cards, but I thought that maybe the additional science could be the most relevant, because as you said, the democracy could just be very important, or basically any H3 government form could be strong. Just getting the additional urban building limit could be very relevant, and with the revolutionary idea, I think I can just afford an H3 government form a lot more easily. And I, thanks to my many civil actions, can take the revolutionary idea on at least one of those yellow cards for the resources, the reserves. And then with the reds being on top now, I decided to increase my population so that I don't lose a lot of food for it. I was now very happy about the reds coming because you are very limited. You can't increase your population at the next turn anyway, but with the reds coming, it will actually take quite a while until you can get a new population out, meaning you might now have to start deleting some stuff, which I thought could be to my advantage. And so I was relatively happy about the turn. Now at this point, I do think the timing of something like democracy and internet could be quite important. I then draw some cards at the end of my turn, the Impact of Science, and also the Mechanized Army tactic, with having the cavalryman in hand, that could have the potential to be a strong tactic for me. And then we are at your turn.
Yeah, I decided to seed. Let me check what exactly I seeded.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's impact of balance, actually. I had also impact of culture, but
yeah, that one can be a bit tricky.
It's doubtful, yeah, that I can win it. Yeah, it was again very strange turn for me. Things seemed even more desperate, I would say. I really cannot do anything. There is no good cards for me on the row. What did I do in the end? Yeah, in the end, I decided to build the cavalryman. Again, I believe there is a strength event, right, coming.
The international negotiations, you seeded earlier,
Yeah,
yes.
and it's more or less okay to lose it when you seed, but usually it's worse when your opponent seed and can decide. So I decided to build some military here. Also, I grabbed Steve Jobs and patriotism. I thought about maybe I need to wait for Gandhi because, again, my only chance is to build a big internet, and an easy way to interrupt me is to declare a war. So, but at the same time, I thought that Steve Jobs can get me maybe 8 culture on my last turn, whereas Gandhi can also give me 2 if things will go peacefully. So I'm not sure if, and also I need to spend my turn somehow. Maybe I could have played endowment. I'm not sure, but yeah, in the end, I decided to take Steve Jobs here.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you're in a position where you just need to hope that things go right for you, and maybe you need to hope that you can go for that big internet plus the culture from Steve Jobs on top in order to close the culture gap.
Yeah,
So
I thought that the culture difference is very big, and I need to hope for some miracle.
yeah, so I think Steve Jobs might indeed be the best leader for you at that last turn, potentially allowing for something like 8 culture, as you said. So I thought that Steve Jobs should be a fine move. Then at my turn, I saw that you put a little bit of effort into getting stronger, and all of the cards that I could see it are not that ideal. So I actually, of course, knew about the international negotiations with Nostradamus. So I decided to not push because I will get actually stronger this turn. A card appeared on the row that has some different use cases for myself, and that is the fundamentalism. I will take it here. I have enough science to develop it. I needed to play the revolutionary idea in order to make space in my hand. And first of all, the fundamentalism is maybe the best way to allow myself to increase my culture production even further. I can now, thanks to the additional urban building limit, build an additional opera and an additional printing press going up to 25 culture production. But at the same time, it also makes me the strongest, being prepared for the international negotiations, and with having drawn the mechanized army tactic, in case I should draw a war at my next draw, or in my next two draws, maybe there could be the chance that I can actually declare the war against you, depending on how well you can set yourself up for the military. So I thought a fundamentalism just is very flexible for me here, helps me out peacefully, but also helps for the strength event and for potential war preparation. So I was quite happy that I had the chance to take it. The democracy, of course, also would have been very strong, but the fundamentalism maybe even being a little bit more flexible here. With going for that, I basically make it very difficult for me to go for that impact of science that I have in hand, but I still at the end was happy to go for that fundamentalism and to increase my culture production even more to make the gap even bigger that I that is between us. Then I draw some cards. The impact of agriculture. I do draw a war here, so I thought that could be a relevant draw potentially, and allowing me to actually do go for some military pressure, and then also another tactic. And we are at your turn. I can't hear you for now.
Again, I'm trying to find what I seeded.
Yeah.
I have culture, strength, and government, so probably it was government because the other two can be problematic to win. So yeah, I seeded government, the international negotiations opened, and since there is no democracy still, I just gave you some signs. It can be the problem in case you have, for example, modern army, but at the same time, uh, maybe you can, or actually, no, you cannot keep riflemen and cavalrymen, right? So yeah, maybe it can allow you some additional options. But yeah, still I need to hope only for some miracle. That maybe you don't have any tactic or war. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I kind of have to take the internet, I think. And what else? I took resource. Yeah, military theory is probably must have here. And I just had it, and I just got some more resources.
Yeah.
I have corruption, but I just don't have anything to do with my resources now. Even though I have, I believe, like 8 additional blue cubes. I just don't have a way to spend my resources.
Yeah. Now with the lack of population, that can be a problem, but also even with population, you would be limited by your urban building limits still.
Yeah.
So here you reveal the conquistador tactic. And at my turn, I first of all seeded the impact of agriculture, which at the moment isn't even looking that great, but with the plans that I had for the following turns, I thought that I likely will get into mechanized agriculture and maybe go for an upgrade, and then I was hoping that it will turn out to be a fine impact. And also I wanted to seed here because my plan was now to go for a war at the next turn, but in order to have enough resources to pull off that war, I need the additional resources from the economic progress, which is on top. And if I don't see it now and you don't see it, then I can't go for the war at the next turn. Also, at the moment, you only get one additional resource out of the economic progress, so I thought it's a nice time to open it. And I will get 6 additional resources. I could maybe think in this position also about just taking space flight, and then maybe I also still have some decent chances because of the big culture gap, even though the space flight isn't as big as the internet will be for you. But I have now the tactic, I have a war, and also I have a lot of information. You revealed the conquistadors tactic. You could still have the classic army tactic, but I do think probably would have revealed it in case you would have drawn it. I'm not sure if it would make sense to go for some sort of a weird bluff here, so I thought you probably have the Conquistadors tactic, modern infantry will be discarded, rockets are already gone, so very likely that will be the tactic that you can work with. Also, I have the shock troops tactic, so you also can't go for an outdated version of that tactic. And I counted your resources that you will have available, and you are just very slightly short of being able to go for 2 Conquistadors tactic with 2 air forces in 2 turns, because I'm not going for war this turn, so I needed to calculate what you are able to pull off in the next 2 turns. And if I didn't miscalculate, I think you needed, yeah, you were missing 1 resource in order to achieve that. And with not being able to achieve that, I thought that a war should very likely be successful. Even if you maybe manage to win the war only by a little bit, that would at least come at a cost of your internet. And so that also could potentially be worthwhile. I thought that one way how you maybe could actually get the amount of resources that you would need would be if the communism appears in the row, and then if you get communism plus this copy of reserves, you have enough resources, but then you can't take the revolutionary idea, I think, plus get out of corruption, and that would mean that you can't go for communism, military theory, and the air forces, so that also doesn't really work that nicely. And with that, I thought that a war should be a relatively safe way for me to play this here. I can develop the cavalryman, play the patriotism, play the reserves too, using all of my yellow cards that I still have from H2. I can build an army. I also decided to reveal the tactic. Of course, I give you some information, but when I build those units, you kind of have to expect that I might have this tactic anyway, and also you now have to worry about an aggression at least. And then I have still 3 civil actions left. I thought about taking cards like Revolutionary Idea or Reserves. I also thought about if it is somehow possible to go for another army plus an air force. I thought about also if maybe I can build a second lab or something to get the necessary science for air forces, but it just didn't really work. I didn't found a way how I can go for a second army in air forces, and so instead, and I also with doing the calculations realized that the copy of reserves doesn't help you a lot strength increase. Of course, maybe you can go for just a little bit of defense in the internet, and it definitely is helpful. But at the end, I decided to go for developing the organized religion so that I don't have to destroy too much, taking the efficient upgrade so that I can go for an upgrade for free, and taking the mechanized agriculture so that I can prepare for the impact of agriculture that I've pushed into the deck. And at the next turn, I can declare war over culture and go for another mechanized army tactic. And I was hoping that that I should win this war, and if you want to finish the internet, I will probably even win this war by a significant difference, and with that I thought that I should have good chances to win with this play. And I draw some defense cards, also the impact of industry, which is a very playable or good one for me. And then we are at your turn.
Yeah, actually I wanted to add that I think in this game you had surprisingly bad spaceflight because you spent so much science on government forms, like first monarchy, then republic, after that fundamentalism. So
That's
you
true.
almost don't have other technologies developed.
That's true. So the spaceflight is definitely weaker than it feels when we just take a look at the science that I produced over the game.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, I agree. I think I actually could have defended if I built conquistadors without upgrading one warrior. So like one army is outdated.
Okay, and maybe
I think it would have been enough, but still, like, doesn't matter. I need to build like 6 units for that, and it's just not possible. I mean, for example, I think I couldn't play endowment if I want to do this because I just don't have enough civil actions as well to play everything, like to play all the resource, um, grab air forces, etc. And of course, I cannot spend any resources on my Steve Jobs, for example. So yeah, it's just wouldn't help me for sure. So yeah, because of that, I decided just to play as if you don't have a war, even though it's super unlikely. But I didn't see any better chance. So I finally developed democracy and built my force pair. And this was my turn.
no, I think maybe that's the way how you have to play it. Good point about being able to go for one outdated army. That's always an easy thing to overlook when calculating some strength potentials. And I think here I just forgot about that option. So I just thought you were one resource short, but of course you can just build a warrior, and then with 2 air forces you have probably indeed enough to win. But as you said, it would be very, very costly for you. And
Yeah, I think like by 2 strengths or maybe by 1 if you build an extra warrior, for example. So
no. So here you just go for that big culture reduction now, being at 28. But now that I have a war, which and you played around hoping that I don't have one, I will of course go for declaring the war. We will now lose our big culture leaders. I will declare the war at my turn. I can go for for upgrading my temple. I won't use the efficient upgrade because I will already this turn use it on an upgrade to my farms. I can then play the reserves, go for some units, destroy the lab, going up to 47 strength. And then I go for developing the mechanized agriculture and upgrading because there's a chance that the impact of agriculture might be revealed in case you see it. Then it would be a 50-50 chance if I want to push the impact of industry into the deck. and then it could make a big difference. So I decided to go for that upgrade already, and then I took the air forces away, so just that in case you want to do something with the air forces for your defense, you now have to pay an additional civil action, because the second copy will stay on 2 civil actions for you. And maybe I could have also somehow implemented Mandela into the turn already for 2 additional culture. Maybe that could be an idea, but I can also just go for Mandela at the next turn, because when I use the ocean liner service, I will again have an unhappy worker. But maybe that could have been also an idea that I didn't really consider that much. I do think I had just enough civil actions if I don't go for the farm upgrade and taking the air forces to take and elect him before upgrading the religion for 2 safe culture. But the farm that I upgrade would give me +7 culture in case the impact of agriculture is revealed, so I do think it's a fair choice to still go for those farm upgrades. And now, with being able to declare this war and seeing that you now don't have the best way to defend, I thought it should be looking good for me, but you at least can now still finish the internet and still go for a bit of a strength increase. And with that, we are at your turn.
Yeah, I just finished the internet and built a couple of cavalrymen. But of course, there is no chance I can win this game.
No.
Also, yeah, because of Mandela, I cannot even see the impact of culture.
Yeah, that's true. It makes quite important difference here. So
yeah, so I just did what I can and passed the turn to you.
yeah. So we can see in the war evaluation that you had now, after finishing the internet, a bit of a culture lead, but that our culture totals basically almost swap with the culture that is stolen. So I have now lead, and I will also get the culture reduction on top. Plus I have actually some solid impacts in there. So at that point, I think the game is decided. I see the impact of industry into the deck. The impact of government is revealed, which is +5 for you. I can increase my population with the ocean liner service, which allows me to pick Mandela. I can then build a religion going up to 22 culture production, and then I just upgrade my second farm, which will give me +3 for the impact of agriculture. And that's then the rest of my turn. And before the final impacts, I am now 47 culture ahead with some good impacts. So at this point, there weren't any doubts left that I would be able to win this game. The first impact is the impact of variety, which will give you +6 against me. Then there's the impact of agriculture, which gives me +12 against you. There's the impact of industry, which gives me +3. And the last impact is the impact of balance, which is the same for us. So at the end, I am able to win this game. And yeah, so I do think in this game it was maybe some things were relevant. First, I think it was relevant that I got the ocean liner service. That is just such a strong wonder to have, and so helpful to be able to get all of those culture buildings done. I managed to get a bit of a culture lead already in age 2 thanks to Nostradamus and those printing presses, so I was already a little bit ahead in culture going into age 3. And also the government timing with the constitutional monarchy and maybe also in age 3 with the democracy, I think wasn't ideal for you. Maybe could have gone for the republic potentially, or even the monarchy earlier on, but after having gone for those alternative turns, which were definitely also very reasonable, the common was then very late. Or what do you think? What were maybe some deciding factors in this game?
I think maybe I shouldn't have picked that Shakespeare. Because after all, at that point of time, I think you had some population, but you still was without the ocean liner, so it wasn't clear who gets it. So Like even if you got Shakespeare and built a couple of pairs, maybe then you'll have problems with population, and I could really punish you somehow military.
Yeah.
What I mean is that maybe it wasn't so obvious that if you get that early Shakespeare and build two more dramas, you can actually not being punished at the same time. So, and Eleanor was just so good for me at that time, and especially even on that turn, she would score me some signs because I've just won strategic territory. So I think I just played a bit too fast this turn, as it happens sometimes.
That's true, that definitely happens, and yeah, I also think that maybe that could potentially one of the turns that maybe could turn the game into a different direction if played differently. Maybe if you get the Republic early and I don't go for that, and maybe I'm locked on 5 civil actions then, while you have the more civil actions a lot earlier, which could also help you a lot.
Yeah. Mm, yeah, also I kind of thought about having enough science to get my government form, but at the same time, I never managed to store enough. Like during the game, like I was one short. I remember to pick Conmon, like it didn't appear on the roll, but still. And then the same happened to Democracy. I kind of waited for it, but still, I actually stored enough science pretty late. So um, I don't know. Starting from H3, it looked not good, or maybe even earlier when you got the ocean liner.
No, the ocean liner service was certainly extremely strong for me with the masonry and the iron mines that I had. That's without that.
Yeah, and also like that Republic was very strong actually. I think
No,
deny that turned out to be a really good card. It just had very strong science production.
yeah, with the scientific breakthrough and all of those science events, I out of the sudden had enough science to develop it myself despite having the monarchy. So I do think that denial at the second point, I mean, I could have denied it even earlier, but then at the second chance when I had to deny it, that turned out to be quite strong. So yeah, maybe the Shakespeare turn and maybe a turn with taking Republic and upgrading a lab or something could have been a way how this game goes into a completely different direction. But of course, it's hard to tell how exactly it would play itself out.
Yeah, we now know.
Yeah, that's the problem, but also the beauty, of course, of this game. You can always think about what you could have done differently, but it's so hard to predict how it exactly would have turned out at the end. Alright, with this game finished, we can now also take a look at the standings that we have after this game. Alright, so after the game between us finished, I took a look at the standings and realized that all of the other games, apart from my second game, have had already finished, and how they have finished was quite in my favor actually, because PV4 managed to defeat you in the second game of your second batch games, and Zoldaria, the opponent that I still have one game to play against, lost against Holy in the first game of the second batch. And with that, there's actually no player left out of my opponents who can go up to 3 points, meaning that with the results already after the game between us, it was then clear that I at the end will actually be able to win this tournament, which I of course was very happy about. And yeah, so I was very happy to see that. starting into the tournament with losing the first round. I didn't really think that I would be able to make it that far, but then out of the sudden the results were quite nice for me, and I made it to the finals, and then now also managed to win the group and the tournament at the end, which I'm very happy about. And also,
Yeah, congratulations, of course.
thank you. And with it now already being clear that I will be able to win the tournament, and with the games from the international championship being shortly about to finish, and I also want to cover that season ideally, I decided to not show the last game against Zoldaria. If you want to take a look at that game, I will maybe put the replay code of that game into the description of the channel. If you want to take a look at it without knowing how it ended, you might have to pause the video now, because now we will take a quick look at the final standings of the group with the game against Zoldaria already included. Alright, and here we have the final standings of the group. I at the end managed to win my game against Zoldaria, which was relatively close. I was the player playing Shakespeare in that game and was a bit behind in culture, but I had a strong economy going, and at the end actually managed to also declare war. I actually declared that war starting my turn by 0 strength, because I had no units and no other source of strength. I'm not sure if I did this before, declaring a war with being at 0 strength, but I then managed to build a mechanized army plus an air force in that war turn, which allowed me to win the war, and then at the end also the game. And so at the end I managed to win all 4 of my final games, which of course I'm very happy about. PV4 making a nice comeback in the second batch of games, having now 2 points scored. You also have 2 points scored. You had a good start in the first batch of games. The second batch of games didn't go ideally for you, and Holy and Soldaria are both at the end at 1 point. So not the ideal performance for them in the finals, but still they had a very nice run in the tournament. Maybe players who are not that much known and maybe are not very high in the rating, but still had some very strong performances in this tournament, and showed some very good games. And so with that, those are the final standings, and I hope it was fun for you all following me along in those final games of the tournament. Maybe especially interesting for those of you who especially enjoy 2-player games. And with that, we are at the end of the video. Thanks, Grozz, for being part of that video. It's always nice to have another player join me in the commentary. And if you want to say maybe one more thing, you can do it now.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. It's an honor to join you.
Yeah, so I think that was great to have you here and hear some of your insights in the game that we played against each other. And then as I said earlier, the next games that I plan to cover are from the International Championship. I also have to see how many videos I will be able to record during Christmas time, but I am hoping that I will find the time to get some more videos coming. And with that, we are at the end of the video. I hope it was interesting for you hearing both of us talking about our turns and following me along in this final of the Wimbledon tournament. And with that, thanks for watching, have a nice time, and see you in the next video.